Hey guys, this is Dr. Mike with Renaissance Period. No, sorry. This is Coach Keith Keppner. With all the comments out there comparing me to Mr. Mike Israetel, I have to admit, it makes me feel pretty special. Also because, as everyone knows, that dude has a lot of Lambos and all that awesome YouTube money, and I don't know, maybe you guys can help me get there as well. I thought because people have been calling me the Mike Israetel of YouTube, of boxing on YouTube, that I would lean into some of the things that he does, or at least try, because some of the things, like a video review that he might do, ends up being very educational for people who are bodybuilders and weightlifters. So I want to do the same thing with our dear friend Tony Jeffries. And to be clear, massive respect for Tony Jeffries on the boxing front. He is an Olympian. I am not an Olympian. He is a YouTube amazing superstar. I am not. He's also good looking and has a sexy accent. Well, I don't know about the accent. But anyway, I happened upon this video of his, and I want to talk about the video and use it to flesh out some different points and things like that, and use it for educational purposes. And to be clear, anything I say is not meant out of disrespect or spite. It's just my own opinions on things. And if you guys like this format of video, I would love to do more of these. So leave a comment below if you like it, and I'll do something like this every week along with my long form content videos. All right, so let's jump into this video. The video is why water balls for boxing are bad. Why water balls? Okay, but let's see it. Let's watch the video.
These water balls are very popular in boxing gyms around the world right now, but I'm not a big fan of these.
It's funny how he calls it water balls and not a water bag, right? But in America, we call them bags. But you can call anything balls or bollocks as much as you want.
And I'm going to tell you why throughout this full video, but there is still some good things about these water balls, like the combinations that you've just seen me throwing earlier on.
Snappy punches. He looks good.
On here, what you can do, what you can't do on a traditional heavy bag, is throw an uppercut.
Don't you just love Tony's accent? He kind of reminds me of that character in the movie Snatch, played by Brad Pitt, the bare-knuckle gypsy boxer.
Potter, get way back.
Can't really understand much of what is being said.
You tell me. Come about the counter.
Mr. O'Neill.
Bet your back's a little. Concentrate. You look like a boxer.
And honestly, I find it, just in all honesty, hard to watch his content because of the accent. I'm sorry, no offense to people with this accent. I'm sure you probably feel the same way about my accent, but just being honest.
So you could throw a 1-2 hook uppercut.
Yes, the bag's great for working on uppercuts, of course. Obviously, you don't need Tony to tell you that, or me to tell you that. Also, 45-degree shots, or angled shots. So you have your straight shots, you have your hooks, you have your 45-degree shots, and you have your uppercuts. Also, you have your shots that can come over the top. A great thing that an Aquabag is good for, I say Aquabag because that's the main brand that does these. A great thing that it's good for is to work on all of those shots in combination with overhand shots, like an overhand right, good standard shot. Also that overhand left style shot that is really effective against a opposite stance fighter, or a boxer that is a mirror stance to you. So if you're a righty fighting a southpaw or vice versa, coming over their lead shoulder with that lead hook, arcing it down, or like pulling a Gennady Golovkin and doing that shot that's high up on the temple with your lead hook. Great utilization of this bag because of its circular nature, and you can throw so much more punches on this type of bag than you can on a regular heavy bag. But as Tony's going to talk about, it's not the end all be all, and it's not the only thing you need to train on.
Whipping them uppercuts, where on a heavy bag, we just can't do that.
One thing that I like about or one way that I find is a great way to work people uppercuts on a regular heavy bag is to miss the heavy bag with your uppercut, because a good uppercut is going to slide up somebody's chest. So you're going to slide it up the chest, and you just slide that uppercut up the bag. Don't actually hit the bag, but literally have it slide right up the bag and follow through with it, because it will get you used to two things. One, sliding up the chest, like I said, which is going to be a good uppercut. And then two is, if you did miss that uppercut, you're set for the follow-up afterwards, because after you miss an uppercut, you typically don't want to stop. You either want to be ready to weave under, roll under a shot, or to return back with a shot. And if you keep good balance and technique and things like that, you can create a lot of power on the next follow-up shot.
But that being said, on a heavy bag, you can do things that you can't do on one of these, and things that I would much rather do than throw an uppercut, and that is throw a body shot. You can't throw a hook.
This is true. You cannot throw body shots in a bag that is largely representing a giant head.
To the body, across the body, a rear hook to the body. You can't throw any body shots on these for that matter, unless it's hung low.
Agreed on that, of course, obviously. One thing is that we have bags like this in our facilities, and I like having them a little bit on the higher side, because I notice on a standard heavy bag, like the awesome one that Tony has next to him right here, that people will tend to go low with their punches and throw like all their shots at, like they're fighting short people, or like those characters from the Wizard of Oz or something, instead of actually throwing a punch where their actual opponent would be. And that's especially problematic when you're a medium height fighter or a shorter fighter, because you have no business throwing shots at your head height or your shoulder height, particularly if you're a shorter boxer.
Like I mentioned, this bag is low for me. If the body punches are there, that would mean the head punches, my head height. These water balls are not made for punching up here. They're made for punching on the big area.
Agreed. Straight shots, not really.
The other problem is, have you felt the bloody weight of these things? This is full with water. It's a ton weight. Now look how small this is compared to this big bag there. This is heavier than that.
Ah, yes, and this is another reason why I love these water bags. And these water bags weren't around when I was training. I stopped training just about right before these started coming out. And what I love about them is the weight, because it's hard to get a bag, or it's more challenging to get a bag that's over 100 pounds in weight. And these water bags can easily be 190 pounds, 200 pounds. And that's great, because you get to really throw your shots, and the bag isn't going to do crazy swinging like a 100-pound bag might. And now, of course, you can overcome this by having someone hold the bag for you, which is actually a really important aspect of training, which is not talked about a lot nowadays. But people, like anything from Evander Holyfield to other fighters, to watch old school fighters, oftentimes they'll hit a bag while it swings, so they can work on the movement, but then also they'll have someone hold the bag for them so they can actually work on throwing their punches like you would throw it on someone that is up against the ropes. But the weight is what's awesome about it and what I love about it.
So this is another reason why I'm not a big fan of these, because moving them, if you want to take them down and I want to have some space here in this gym and I want to start, I mean, I can hit the speed ball from here, but if I want to move it somewhere else, it's an absolute nightmare.
He is right. It is an absolute nightmare moving a water bag, or a bottle bag, as he would say. And some tips on that, if you have that happen, because I put up a ton of these. So obviously they're made to be hung first and filled second. I didn't get that instruction the first time, so I hung it first. Also, if I remember correctly, the gym I was at where I first got one, I didn't have a faucet contraption that I could easily fill it. And, you know, being stupid or lazy, I filled it up. Well, I guess stupid and therefore not being able to be lazy. I filled it up at my house, and then literally had to do some weird wrestling type sumo moves to get that sucker in a car, drive it to the gym, pull it out of the car. It was a nightmare. And how I managed to do it all by myself was creating an elaborate pulley system. And so I got a pulley and a rope, and on the other side of the rope I had some 45-pound plates, to take off some of the weight of the water bag as I lifted it up to get it high enough. Then once I got it, then I latched it, and bada bing, bada boom. Now, another great way to do it, so let's say you're in Tony's situation where you're like, oh, I want it higher. You could get some straps, crank straps or whatever, stuff you'd use to like strap stuff down to a trailer or whatever, and ratchet straps. You can actually connect a ratchet strap to it, connect that to, if you have it like on a rack, connect it to the top of the rack and ratchet it up. And that's actually a really pretty easy way to get it up. But again, I totally agree.
When it swings, see it swinging now? Now what can I work on? Well, I can work on 3 different things. One thing is working on just footwork, moving backwards and forwards, moving around.
That's right, you can work on all the movement and stuff like that. And particularly too, if you have it hung from a high area, bags like this, including wrecking balls, any type of bag like this, or just a regular bag that's hung really high with a long chain, it allows you to track it. I was in one facility where the ceiling was like 20 feet high. So we hung a bag from there down, and it was a regular standard heavy bag. And it was great to work with that, as well as a wrecking ball that was hung like that as well, because you could literally track that thing 5 or so, 6 feet one way, 6 feet the other way, and cut off the bag, work around the bag. A lot of benefits, but you know, not everyone has that luxury, because not everyone has the YouTube bucks that Tony does. At least not yet.
Just like an opponent would come to you, we work on moving. And the second thing we can use this for when it's moving towards us is moving and punching at the same time.
Yes, and being able to move and punch at the same time. Very important concept. I'm actually going to talk about that in my next video, along with a whole description in long form, going into all the nuances on footwork. So look out for that one.
I'm going to push it a little bit more, so a bit more swing on it. Now I can come forward and I can punch it and move. So now I'm getting used to moving backwards. I'm punching, and then the same going forwards as it's swinging.
And also one thing too is that, I don't know if they make it anymore. I think they do. I think you can find it. But Everlast for a while made basically the same exact type of bag, which is just like a bladder, straight bladder, that was the length of a regular heavy bag. And so that was great too.
And then back as well. So moving backwards and forwards, punching and moving at the same time, which is key in boxing. But you can do that on a heavy bag also. Now, there's a couple of reasons why these are really popular in gyms. Well, for one, they're easy for companies to ship them out, because if you think this is empty, it's light. Where most bags, when you buy a bag, they come filled. So the shipping is a lot more on a bag.
Yes. And to be clear, it's easier on your pocketbook. Because if you buy Tony's awesome other bag here and you buy it filled, you're going to spend hundreds of dollars on shipping. Water bag, never. So for home use, stuff like that, I feel like water bag is probably your best option.
Than one of these. That being said, sometimes bags come empty and they're an absolute nightmare to fill up. Believe me, I was filling my own bag up, and this right here was an absolute nightmare. I actually put a heavy bag inside of the bag, bought loads of old clothes and rags, stuffed them in. I even have to get my wife inside the bag.
Tony, you can save what you do with your wife and putting her in bags and things like that. Private conversation, please. Don't put that on YouTube. Is his wife still in the heavy bag?
To press it down. Trust me, my friend, filling up a heavy bag is an absolute nightmare. So I guess that's why people order heavy bags already full. So it's full, that's when it's a ton weight. So you better make sure when you are hanging it up, it's the right height for you, whether you want to be able to throw body shots or focus on the head or get it in between. Like this is kind of in between. I can widen my stance and come down to the level of that, which I guess would start making me develop bad habits if I'm dropping the level a little bit. But anyway, it can work and it can give me a great workout. So
it all depends. I mean, obviously, I would say the best of both worlds is to have a bag that's higher and a bag that's lower. If you're really tall, like how Tony's really tall, in my opinion, you want to be able to be a little bit lower a lot of times, because you'll be fighting people shorter than you. And if you're shorter, you want to be boxing and hitting things that are a little bit higher than you, because most people are going to be higher than you.
that's one reason why gyms like these. And the other reason is they look good, right? And with a gym, especially a fitness gym, you want them to look good. And these, yeah, they look good and they look attractive.
They look attractive. That's a good looking heavy bag, isn't it?
To people who maybe have not boxed before. That being said, some boxers do like these. I know some professional fighters who do like hitting these. But for me, I don't like hitting them. And I want to tell you the main reason why I can't stand hitting these things. But first, I need to tell you about a supplement that I take on a daily basis. And the reason why I need to tell you about the supplement is because I do take it on a daily basis. And the sponsor on this video. And when I get sponsors, what that means is I can produce more videos like this to help you improve your boxing and up your... What do I not like about these bags? The thing that I can't stand the most. People say that because this is filled up with water, it's less impact than on a bag, right? They say it's softer. Now you might think, well, yeah, that makes sense, but mate, it doesn't. This is bloody rock hard. And I've hurt my hands before hitting one of these bags.
That's awesome that, you know, you think water's bloody rock hard, but I really don't know what he's talking about here. Maybe you can share in the comments your experience. No judgment. If water has caused you injuries before, maybe if you're falling from high enough out of an airplane or off the Golden Gate Bridge, something like that. I've never heard anyone ever complain about these, specifically this style of water bag, to be too hard. And it's always been a softer option than a standard heavy bag. Now, granted, the way that Tony filled his heavy bag that's a great way to fill it. Put that smaller bag in as a core and then put a lot of soft stuff around it, used clothes and things like that, because then you're not going to have the problem that you can run into, like we all know with heavy bags. We have those sandbags that weigh it down. That sandbag creeps out towards the outer core, and then you are like punching straight on a sandbag. And before any of you guys like, oh, well, you need to punch sandbags or whatever, or punch rocks. I remember one time when I first started coaching, I came out from Mexico and I was coaching people in this little country gym. And this one guy was telling me about how his cousin would fill a full bag full of rocks, and he'd punch the bag without any gloves on. And I was like, man, well, I guess your cousin or whatever, brother, mother, whatever, doesn't punch very hard, because if he did, he probably would break his hand. And my proof is in evidence. Why is that? Because look at guys like, I don't know, one of the hardest punchers of the last 40 years, Mike Tyson. Whenever he got in a street fight, he broke his hand. Why? Because he punches hard. And guess what? If you punch hard, particularly bone, which is about as hard as rock, without a glove on, you're probably going to break something. All right, and that's where the boxing glove and the wrap, the pro wrap specifically, is all used to not protect the opponent, but to protect your hand so you can punch harder. Little boxing history for you. John L. Sullivan, who was the first professional, or who was the first gloved heavyweight champion, he was also bare knuckle champion, but he ushered in gloves. And because oftentimes in boxing, how the heavyweight division goes is how all of boxing goes sometimes. And he preferred using gloves, or as back then I think they would call them mufflers or something like that. But why would he prefer that? Because he liked hitting hard and he liked putting punches together. And if you hit hard and you put your punches together, there's a higher likelihood of you damaging your hand. All right. But, so I've had one situation where recently I actually did disagree with Tony here, not too much though, did have a fighter severely hurt his hand on a water bag, just like this one. Now, let me tell you the context though. He had that sucker hanging up outside. We're in North Georgia, so it does get below freezing sometime in the wintertime. And he walked over by it and like threw a left hook at it hard, not realizing that the whole water bag was frozen. So now he's punching a big ball of ice. And yeah, he really injured himself. But I don't know, maybe it's that cold where Tony is in merry old England, but I don't know.
So that's the reason why I much prefer a heavy bag over one of these. And my favorite type of...
Take my advice for it. Again, no disrespect to Mr. Tony. If your hands are hurting you, you can almost not go wrong by punching a water bag. Unless it's frozen.
Heavy bag is what you see me hitting on this video right here. And the reason why is they're big. Like, look, this is kind of the same size as
That is a big, awesome, nice bag. I love bags like that. Preferably, one of my ideal bags is a bag like that weighs like 300 pounds.
my body. They're heavy, so you're not just going to hit them and they're not going to swing all over the place and really lose control. You can hit them really hard, and because they're big and they're heavy, and as well they're soft. So what does that mean? It means you can really whack them bags as hard as you want because they're soft, and I'm not going to hurt my hand like I might do on this thing, but as well it's not going to swing all over the place, and I can really work on power punches, combination punches.
Well, there we go. He talks about not swinging all over the place. Very true. Very true. Again, you want to have bags for different uses. You want to have a bag that's going to be more stationary. You could even have like a wall bag that you connect to a wall or a stationary surface of some type, a beam. You have because therefore no one has to hold it for you. And then you can really let your punches and combinations go. And then you have a bag that is, more medium, moves, and even a lighter bag, like a precision bag, very thin, very hard bag, but it swings a lot and moves a lot. And that's really good as well, I personally find, for accuracy. And then something that you can incorporate some uppercuts in, like a wrecking ball bag or a water bag, just like this.
Really up my heavy bag game. So I've just found out that this is not even a boxing bag. This is called a buoy.
He hung a buoy? Oh, a buoy.
What you put in between boats in the ocean so they don't smash against each other. So this is probably $150, $200 cheaper than a official water ball that you get from a boxing website. So if you are going to get one of these, why not get a buoy?
You hear that? Don't buy a water bag. Buy a buoy that you can hang up, maybe by the neck, and punch. Great tip, though. I mean, that's absolutely what these are. And it was something that if I had more time on my hands, I wanted to do that when I was boxing, was to do something like this. Because Title had this weird bag for a while that was like a water core surrounded by foam. And it just, I don't know, it didn't feel right. These bags, they feel good to me. The one thing, besides obviously his points about the body shot, the one thing about this style of bag where it's the bladder filled is that I'm not big on, or that is not perfect in my world, is you get a nice crack and pop when you punch a regular bag correctly, right? With the loose and the snap on your punches. And you don't quite get that feedback, so I find sometimes it can be easier for guys to push their punches on a water bag, or Aquabag is Aqua's the company that really got these out here again. They had some bags like this that were cylinder, but same type of just a pure bladder back in like the 80s. But anyway, yeah, you don't get that nice snap. So I feel like sometimes it encourages pushing a little bit more because it kind of sucks in your punch. But there's a benefit to if you keep your punches proper and throw them correctly, that since it does kind of suck your punch in a little bit, it honestly is almost like more fatiguing in a good way. Because sometimes a bag will kind of bounce your arm back, right? The water bag kind of sucks it in a little bit. So, all right, guys. So that was Tony Jeffries' review of a water ball, or why water balls for boxing are bad. I feel like I'm reading a Dr. Seuss book. Yeah. So to each their own. But I would say again, you can at least take my advice for it. Is that 9 times out of 10, you're going to save your joints, all your joints, shoulders, wrists, your hands. You're going to save that on a water bag or a water ball. And, or if you do what he says and get a buoy and hang up your buoy and punch him. And yeah, so it's good. But then again, to his point, you can fill a great bag. And there's always trade-offs, right? It's not really disadvantages or advantages. It's trade-offs. The big thing, though, is that you're going to save a lot of money. It's going to be, you hang it up, outside. Just make sure you don't hit it when it's freaking frozen. And you'll be good to go. Great bags. I'm a big fan of them. And but again, to have a full equipped boxing facility, you need to have a longer bag. You need to have a wrecking ball or water bag like this. And yeah, you got those things and you're good to go. Okay. All right, guys. So if you like this video, make sure you click like. If you're not subscribed, which chances are you're not subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. And if you want me to do more videos like this where I review stuff and talk about it and you felt like there's some value here, let me know as well in the comments, and I'd love to start doing more of these because, again, as you know, I'm passionate about boxing and I love to share that passion with you guys. All right, see you on the next video.